Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. Our guest of today is Chris, and he's the founder of Ignite AI Solutions. And Chris, why don't you tell a little bit more about yourself and all the amazing stuff your company is doing?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Chris Duffy. I'm ex-military. I did 23 years in the British Army, and I left in September 2024. And I started consulting back into defence. I've spent the last 3 years in the AI space, and before that, I was solely focused in operations and change management for my last 6 years of my career. I left consulting in April to go full time in my own company, Ignite AI, because I was uncomfortable being a consultant where I delivered a project and then just left, and they were just left to fend for themselves after I delivered something. The company that I run, we are an advisory, an AI-powered growth advisory. We don't just deliver a product and leave. We sort of partner up with a company and support them all the way through their journey as they slowly adopt AI in different areas.
Yeah, I love that. And what's the biggest reason which inspired you to start the company in the first place?
I'm really passionate about AI. As soon as ChatGPT came out in November 22, I could see the potential of where it was going. And then as I was in the transition from the military, I was thinking, how can I leverage this to be both beneficial for me and to help others? And at first it was looking at teaching people how to use AI in that space, but then it was then moving more into how can you make significant changes that revolutionize the way a business works. And that's where I'm finding that I get most passion from it, when you see what you implement makes such a difference to somebody's livelihood. That's really powerful.
Yeah, love that. And towards the companies you are serving, which type of company benefits the most from your service?
I think any company benefits from it, to be honest. It's not any company of any size. It's, an individual person, if they're using AI to improve productivity in their own small business, they can still be extremely beneficial. And then if you're working in a 40, 50 million pound company, there's a whole bigger job to do there. But, even small tangible differences that you can make. We always focus on a problem first approach. So we'll always speak to senior leaders of a business and identify where the problems are, where the bottlenecks are, the things that are costing them money or a lot of time. And then once we identify those, we can then look at AI use cases that could potentially be able to improve that. Or if not AI, we don't sell AI. We don't come into a company and say we're here to deliver AI. We genuinely solve business problems, and AI is a benefit of doing that. So we might not need AI to solve the problem. It might just be, let's remove that process because it's now obsolete. And it's that level of understanding when you come into a business of that outside view, but you're outside looking to stay there with them for a while and take them on a journey rather than come in and go, this is a problem, I'm going to fix it, and then that's the end.
Yeah, I love it. So it's like it's rather like collaboration instead of like you guys say like this is the way we're gonna do it. And I love what you're saying with AI. You're so passionate about AI even when it came out in November 2022, and especially nowadays. I think a lot of companies they're maybe not struggling, but it's hard to keep up with all the new things which are coming up in AI. And at the same time, you kind of have to like kind of implement AI in a certain way, right? Because things are moving so quick. If you're not gonna use it, like your competitors will, and then they will be like one step forward in the process. How do you make sure as a company, because I know there are a lot of founders watching this podcast right now as I'm speaking, like how do you make sure like you use AI in the most efficient way instead of using it out of FOMO because you think like you just should use it because you're missing out?
So the main way to do that is to choose the solutions and vet the solutions based on the systems and the problems you're trying to solve. Always look at it as a problem first approach. There's so many different AI tools out there, and there's improvements happening daily. Every week there is a significant improvement, and the technology is doubling every 6 months. It's almost impossible to keep up. But if in a business, you don't really have to. You need to find the areas where you can make a significant difference and then find and vet the tools that would fit that purpose best. And you can use AI tools such as Perplexity to do your research to find out which AI tools would best suit that problem. And you can then use other LLMs to bring that together in delivering the solution.
Yeah, I love that. And So problem first. Don't just try to rush into it, but first, what's the issue? And from you knowing the issue, from this point, you can actually look in a very specific way what the company needs. And then about your own journey, what are some of the challenges you have faced towards growing the company towards where it is right now, and how did you solve these challenges?
I completely bootstrapped. I didn't get any funding or anything for my company. I started it from scratch with my own investments. And that was really difficult to start with because I left a significantly high paying job as a consultant to then go it alone and not have much income for quite a long period of time. It gets to a point where you start to question your decisions and whether it was the right one. And it does take time to sort of stick at it and keep driving forward. And then you start to see the value and the benefit of what you're doing. And I mean, my health is increased massively just by leaving the corporate world and being a founder and just having my own responsibilities and comfort. So that's been really beneficial for me in my own mental health.
Yeah, I love that. And it kind of ties down to what you were saying earlier, how passionate you are about everything, about the AI space. And I think this ties down to your business as well. Maybe you had like a couple of months where you were like, hey, I don't have the same amount of income as a consultant, but because you were so passionate about what you were doing, you were still moving forward.
Yeah.
If I understand what you were saying. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the key things that I found with starting my own company is I didn't know a lot about business. I'm studying an MBA. I'm almost at the end of it. And I've done I understand business functions. I understand the C-suite, but I didn't have the business experience with being in the military. And my business partner, we partnered up in May, and Tim's a business growth advisor, has been for 30 plus years. I saw where I needed support. And then between the two of us, we can deliver business growth and AI advisory at the same time. And then I can manage the transformation through that as well. And we can continue to align the solutions to the business goals and the main areas that will drive the investment and growth. And there's not
Very
a lot
nice.
of companies that have that sort of dynamic that is delivering something of that level.
Yeah, love that. And what are some of the ways how are you guys acquiring new customers at the moment?
I do a lot of networking, a lot of speaking events and things like that. People approach me through things like LinkedIn, or when I'm at a networking event, we'll have a chat and then they'll speak to me afterwards. I'm not really marketing or advertising. I post a lot on LinkedIn, but that's pretty much it. I don't do any real social networking apart from a couple of podcasts and things like that, which I've just started doing recently. And then I'm going to speak at Global Risk Europe in London on Thursday this week.
Very nice. Let's say we're gonna look back at your journey, right? Like when you kind of founded the company, like with the lessons you learned, because I'm sure, like as a founder, you're learning a lot of lessons every day. It's kind of solving challenges, solving problems, like learning how to fly an airplane when you're flying the airplane. What's one thing you would do differently if you go back with the knowledge you're having right now as you speak? If you go back at the moment when you founded the company.
I think I'd be more prepared. So I was going into AI strategy and staying at the advisory level. But when you're working with a small business, you're not going to go in and advise them and say, this is what you should do, and then not deliver anything to be able to do that and help them. You need to learn to automate. You need to learn to be able to build small solutions. And then I ended up starting to build a full stack solution for one of the first clients we'd acquired. That was an incredibly steep learning curve for the first few months. I had a lot of experience and understanding of business strategy, AI strategy, and change management, but I knew nothing about automation and building solutions. And that was quite a steep learning curve initially.
Very nice. And with this kind of learning curve, how did you keep? Maybe it's a bit of an intense question, but I think it's pretty interesting. How did you keep your head above the water, like we're building something, instead of you being overwhelmed with all the stuff which is kind of thrown at you in this kind of moment?
Well, as I said, I practice what I preach. I teach master classes where I show people how to start in business with AI, how to align leadership teams to a common problem, how to work through implementation correctly, how to vet your tools, how to govern and make sure that all these tools are safe, and then manage the transformation of giving it to your employees and helping them use it in the right way, and then get the continuous feedback. For me, it was practice what you preach. So I vet the tools that I'm going to use specific to the way I want to use them and the way that it would benefit the business. So if there's
Yeah.
tools that are flying around that are amazing, things like Nano Banana, really powerful tools for image generation and things, but it's not something in my remit that I need to use. So I sort of don't get involved in that side of it. And I'll move more into using Fathom as a note taker to record the calls so that I can be able to draft business documents quickly, draft proposals quickly, and get far more insights from that. I use Claude and build a business brain within there. It knows everything about my business. It knows the KPIs. It knows my ideal client profile. So when I ask questions in there, I get a really quality answer from that within just a couple of sentences, rather than having a whole page prompt and then having to give it loads of context. It already has everything that it needs. Picking the tools that benefit you to continue to move forward, rather than trying to pick up the next shiny thing.
Yeah, I love that. And let's say you could use, like, have you watched Harry Potter when you were younger? You could use the magic wand of Harry Potter, right? Let's say this pen is the magic wand, and with this magic wand, with this pen, the magic wand, you could solve any problem in the business just in a couple of seconds. What problem would you solve with this magic wand from Harry Potter?
Connectivity and security, I think, is the two things. So I'd want to be able to connect every single thing that I own, every single system I use, and every single application I use together into one complete seamless entity, and then be able to do whatever I needed to from there securely, not just pouring loads of information out at risk, and just having a complete compartmentalized system that we could deliver everything from. That'd be the gold standard.
Love that. And let's say, what are some of the things you're working towards, like some of the goals you're having with the company in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months from now?
Well, our long-term plan, our 3-year plan, is to work with over 1,000 clients. If we can do that in 3 years, that's a massive achievement, and we are moving in the right direction quite quickly. In the next 6 to 12 months, ideally, what we want to be doing is fully established and starting to bring on developers to build out solutions for us.
Yeah, very nice. Towards the people watching this podcast right now, right? You're saying, like, hey, being a founder at moments is quite a steep learning curve. I think we all experience this at a certain moment, right? And that's amazing. Because, like, whenever we are taking action and the learning curve is steep, that means, like, we're exposed ourselves towards like growing, right? Because there's a lot of lessons and a lot of, like, golden nuggets in there. And towards all the lessons you've learned, like, if you could just give one piece of wisdom from the lessons you've learned towards the founders who are watching the podcast right now, what piece of wisdom would you give to those founders watching the podcast?
Your network is everything. The people around you who can support you and help you grow when you're starting up is everything. Reach out to people that you think can help you, and then you can move in the right direction far quicker. Reach out to people that you used to speak to that have similar journeys that you've had, or are a lot further on than you, and get advice from them. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, love that. Surround yourself with the right people. And right now we live in a time and age, what you're saying, reach out to those people. And they're all 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when there wasn't even internet, like, it might be difficult to find those people. But right now we live in a day and age where the world has become so small. So all the resources, they are already out there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's never been a time where you've got access to world-class information that, and world-class tools that enterprise only used to have available to them. And now, as a small business owner, you can have the same leverage, which is why the AI first companies now are starting to grow next faster than any other medium-sized companies that have been established for many years, because it takes a long time to steer that ship. Whereas if you're in a small boat growing quickly, then you can move quick and turn fast.
Yeah. Love that. And for the people watching the podcast there, I want to connect more with Chris. I want to connect more with Ignite AI Solutions. Like, what are the ways they can connect with you guys?
Yeah, so I'm on igniteaisolutions.co.uk is our website, and I'm on LinkedIn, Chris Duffy CAIO, and you can find me on there.
Yeah, very nice. Chris, thanks so much for being on the podcast and for you sharing your lessons, talking about the company. For everyone who's watching the podcast right now, I'm going to make sure to put all the links of Chris and Ignite AI Solutions down in the link below, so you can easily find it. And yeah, thanks for tuning in to the podcast, and see you in the next episode.